What's up everyone, I'm Callum on Toast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Ultra League Premier Classic, running Shadow Weavile with Ice Shard as the fast move alongside Gengar with a triple ghost moveset and Pangoro. Now this is going to act as a poison double dark team, but with some spicier picks from what you normally see with the Nidoqueens and the Scrafties and Obstagoons. Now I've got to be honest with you guys, Shadow Weavile is an extremely difficult Pokemon to use, and that's coming from me, someone who loves running these glass cannon Pokemon. And the reason for that is because Avalanche, despite being a really strong move, just doesn't quite do enough damage to take out most Pokemon in those neutral matchups, so you're going to need to land 2 charge moves, and when Avalanche does about 70 to 80% damage to that Pokemon, throwing a second one really just doesn't feel like it's worth it. So I'm actually going to run Ice Shard as a fast move, just so I do have that ability to farm Pokemon down. And as well, I know Dragonite is super strong in this meta, and if I can align my Shadow Weavile with a Dragonite, that's going to be lights out super fast. Unfortunately, that's not how this played out, because pretty much every Dragonite I saw was in the lead on my opponent's team, so it was just very difficult to align my Weavile with the Dragonites. But you will see that I'm still able to play around that quite a lot, and I do have some pretty insane battles. But with that being said, let's get into the question of the day. Which glass cannon Pokemon do you regret investing in the most? A Pokemon that you built to challenge yourself, but despite your best efforts, you really just can't seem to make it work. Let me know in the comment section below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle here, we lead into a Gallade, so I'm going to throw one Shadow Claw, switch into the Pangoro, but actually my opponent switches out of that matchup anyway. We're going to shield this up. It could be a superpower, and it is, so that is a good shield. Superpower probably would have taken us out or been very close to, and we would be lick farmed down. But we're going to go for a close combat here, get to the back-to-back close combat before they can throw another charge move, and my opponent double shields, so they really want to maintain switch advantage. So we're not going to allow them that. We're going to shield up. It's another superpower, which is perfect. They probably could have gotten away with going for a body slam there, but that doesn't matter. We go for the close combat, we take out the Snorlax, and we're going to see what they come in with. My opponent comes in with the Gallade here. We're going to go for the Night Slash. I'm not really sure what happened there, but we kind of threw at a really weird time, and they get a full confusion through, so massive mistake there. And then we don't get the Shadow Claw through either, so maybe that was actually just an error on the game end rather than input error from me. We switch here, we catch the charge move on the Weavile. This Hydro Cannon does a lot of damage, but they're not going to be able to Mudshot farm me down, so my opponent goes for the Hydro Cannon straight away. They don't over farm at all, which is perfect, allowing me to get a maximum of 5 Shadow Claws in here before they get to the Hydro Cannon. We win the CMP tie with the Gengar, we take out this Swampert with the Shadow Ball, we get to 1 Shadow Punch after 1 Shadow Claw, and we take out the Gallade, and we take that game. So obviously not the best showcase of the Shadow Weavile there, as all it did was tank a couple charge moves. But going into the next game here, we lead into a Dragonite, and that was kind of the problem with the Weavile. We're running it with the Ice Shard specifically so that we can easily destroy those Dragonites, but they're all in the lead, so we just can't get that alignment. But here we switch into the Pangoro, we got off a close combat, and we get them super low after getting a shield from this Escavalier. We're going to need to shield this Drill Run, but we will be able to Shadow Claw farm them down. So even if they have the back-to-back, it doesn't matter, because Shadow Claw takes them out. They come in with the Dragonite there. Looks like we lag a little bit, and they're able to get to a charge move just before we get to the Shadow Ball. We're going to shield up the Dragon Claw, go for the Shadow Ball here. I kind of expect my opponent to shield this up, but we'll see that they actually no-shield it. They come in with Trevenant. We're going to try go for the Shadow Ball. We don't quite get there, but that doesn't matter. I can come in with the Weavile here. Because we're running Ice Shard, we're a bit slow to the charge move, but we do have it now. Seed Bomb isn't going to take us out. They can't go for the back-to-back because we will win the CMP tie, and Avalanche will easily take out the Trevenant, and we take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we lead into an Alolan Muck. So if it's a Poison Jab Alolan Muck, we're actually going to stay in and then try to catch the Dark Pulse on the Pangoro, and we perfectly catch here. Is it going to be the Dark Pulse? Yes, it is. That's double resisted on Pangoro. Unfortunately, they come in with a Surf Edge, so we're going straight for the close combat. Close combat gets a shield from this Surf Edge. I'm going to come back in with the Gengar and really hope that the Shadow Ball takes them out here. We do win CMP up against the Surf Edge, so that is perfect. Shadow Ball barely doesn't take them out, and we're going to have to shield up this charge move. It is a Night Slash, but we get the Shadow Claw through, and they don't have back-to-backs. So at this point, we are just going to go for the Shadow Ball. It's resisted, but Shadow Ball does massive damage to the Alolan Muck. We try to catch once again, but unfortunately, they hold off on throwing this time. They have a Shadow Machamp in the back, and our only win condition here is if they go for a cross chop bait, but they go for the Rock Slide and take me out. So pretty tricky team composition for me to overcome there, but perhaps we shouldn't have tried to catch straight away. Maybe we should have just stayed in with the Gengar for longer, and I should have guessed that it was probably an ABB team from that opponent. But anyways, into this matchup here, we're going for the close combat up against the Escavalier. Once again, we're going to be allowed to get to a second close combat, and once again they let this go through, so they're very low health, meaning I will be able to farm them down before I have to take 2 drill runs from this Escavalier. So we're going to shield up the first one, and they won't be able to reach the second, and we should be able to Shadow Claw, farm them down. We come out with a little bit of energy here. My opponent is going to come back in with the Gallade, which is very dangerous. We're going for the Shadow Punch. We're going to go for one Shadow Claw, switch into the Weavile there. My opponent stays in for too long. They think about what to do, and they come in with a Nidoqueen, and we're in a really good position now. We get a full Ice Shard through here as they go for the Poison Fang straight away. We're going to shield it up because I know I can now outpace them to the next move, and this means we will be taking out the Nidoqueen with the Avalanche, and this Gallade has to throw their energy, meaning I can just Shadow Claw, farm down the Gallade, and take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. And into the next game here, we lead Gengar into another Dragonite. So I'm going to switch into the Pangoro because it is my safe swap. My opponent's staying in, and we're going to go for a Night Slash just before they get to a superpower. My opponent lets it go through. We get a boost, and once again, there's another Escavalier here. Because we get the boost, we should probably bait with a Night Slash, but I don't, and now I'm not able to get to another charge move. So we definitely should have just gone for the bait there. That was the safe play, although I wanted to just try and take them out straight away. But we are going to have to use a shield here, and I'm really hoping that I can go for a Shadow Punch and take them out, but they're at the back-to-back already, and at this point I know that I have to overfarm as much as possible if I want to get as much energy as possible to throw into the Dragonite when it comes back in. Shadow Punch takes out the Escav. We're going straight for the Shadow Ball up against this Dragonite, and then we're going to farm up a little bit and then try to catch the move on the Weavile, and we're successful. This is really important because if we switched any earlier, the Dragonite would definitely just go for a superpower, but because we switched at the perfect timing, they have to use 2 charge moves there to take me out. They have an Excadrill. We're going to go for the Shadow Ball on the CMP tie. Shadow Ball takes out the Excadrill, and I'm able to Shadow Claw, farm down this Dragonite, and take that game. Not sure why the screen's gone black for so long, but we do take that game, and that's going to be a 4-on-1 set with this team, so not bad considering the team isn't necessarily the best out there. But into the next game, we lead into a Trevenant. We're going to go straight for a Shadow Punch, I think. No, we are going to lag, and that's a bit annoying, so we tank the Seed Bomb there. We switch into the Pangoro here. My opponent, we lag again, for God's sake. This game, sometimes it is super frustrating, but here they come in with a Lapras, so they're core broken by this Pangoro. We're going straight for the close combat here on a CMP tie with the Surf. It shouldn't have been a CMP tie because they switched out, but this game is just, you know, going in my opponent's favour pretty much all the time right now. We're going for the Night Slash. Night Slash barely doesn't take them out, meaning I'm able to snarl farm them down. I'm going to switch straight away out of this matchup, store the energy because I don't know what's coming back in, and I don't want that brief pause to cost me here. I come in with the Weavile. They're going for a Shadow Ball. That does huge damage. I'm going for the foul play here up against this Wall Rain that comes in. They're going to try to farm me down, but I should be able to reach another foul play, and I'm able to, and this should be getting a shield at this point. And we do get the shield here, and now I can come in with the Gengar, and I'm going to shield this up, assuming that they're going to go for the back-to-back Icicle Spears. We go for the Shadow Punch here, and if we can get a shield here, we do have that close combat loaded. We switch into the Pangoro, and I forgot which side my charge moves are on, and I go for a Night Slash, and I just completely screw up this game. Also, I shouldn't have switched out there because, like I said earlier, it should take one turn for the switch, so they should get off their charge move first if they went for it. So I should have just let the Gengar go down, see that my close combat is on the left, and then take them out. But yeah, we kind of messed up that game, which is unfortunate. But here, into the next game, we lead into a Shadow Snorlax, very bad lead because we're running the triple Ghost moveset on Gengar. They switch into a Haxorus, and that is a very spicy pick in the Ultra League Premier Classic. We get a boost here, but unfortunately they no-shield the first move. So we're going to shield up this Dragon Claw. We're really going to fight for switch advantage because Gengar can do absolutely nothing up against that Snorlax. We're going for another Night Slash here, and if the new mechanic works properly, then we should be able to get to one final Night Slash here before the counter damage registers, and that is really important for me. Unfortunate for my opponent because that mechanic is super inconsistent, but we do take switch advantage here. But this is going to be a massive problem because Snorlax learns superpower, so I stall for a second, switch into the Gengar, catch the superpower. My opponent switches into the Dragonite. They don't want it aligned up against that Shadow Weavile, but I'm going to go for a Shadow Ball here. We're going to undercharge, but it still takes out the Dragonite. My opponent is able to lick farm me down. They have some energy banked already, and it's a CMP tie on the Avalanche. Is this enough to KO the Snorlax? Yes, it is, and we're able to take that game. So a ridiculously close game there, but GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we lead into a Blaziken, so a very good lead for us. My opponent switches into Luxray. We don't have a good response really for the Luxray, so I'm going to shield this up. It's a Psychic Fangs. I would have really liked to catch that on one of my dark types, but I wasn't really sure what to do. So that does kind of happen when your opponents use more unique Pokemon. You're not really sure what the best play is, and that's certainly how I catch my opponents off guard a lot. They go for the Wild Charge, but I do tank it. I'm going for a Night Slash. My opponent is looking like they're going to try farm me down, but they're not able to, meaning I get to another Night Slash, and this will be taking out the Luxray. My opponent comes in with a Swampert. I'm going to come in with the Weavile here, let this charge move go through, anticipate that they're going to switch out straight away into Blaziken, so I switch myself into the Gengar. We overfarm, go for a Shadow Ball up against this Blaziken. We take out the Blaziken, they come back in with the Swampert. They're going to farm to the back-to-back charge moves, but we get to the Shadow Ball first, and Shadow Ball takes out the Swampert and takes that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we lead into another Shadow Dragonite. So unfortunately, once again, we're just seeing Dragonite in the lead pretty much every single time. I don't think we've seen a Dragonite in the back in any of these sets. So yeah, bit of a mistake trying to have that Shadow Weavile in the back. It was there to hard punish Dragonites in the end game, but they're just all in the lead, so not a lot I can do about that other than, you know, make a better team. But my opponent catches the charge move here onto their Escavalier. We did have a close combat loaded just now, but they make a brilliant catch onto the Escav, so really nice play there. We're going to come in with the Gengar here, and we know that a Shadow Punch won't take them out at this range, so we are going to overfarm, let them throw their energy. Go for the Shadow Punch here just before we reach 100 energy. Taking out the Escav, we're going to go straight for the Shadow Ball, I believe. No, because they've got a Snorlax, and unfortunately there's just nothing we can do. They're going to get to a superpower. That's easily going to be enough to take out this Weavile, and at this point, I don't know why I'm still playing, but yeah, I just let the charge move go through, and this Dragonite will be able to farm down the Gengar, and I do lose that game. So GG's to that opponent there. And into the next game here, we lead into a Swampert. Bit of a tricky lead here, but I'm going to stay in, and I will shield this up. It's an ABB team, so I do need to maintain the health on my Gengar. My opponent switches into an Alola Muck. We're going to go for a Shadow Ball here, just because I don't want to go up to 100 energy, and now I switch and catch the charge move on the Pangoro, and I'm able to catch up Dark Pulse once again, which is perfect. Like I said earlier, we do double resist the Dark Pulse, so that is fine. They're just going to go for an Acid Spray, but we can tank that. We're going to overfarm here, go up to the back-to-back close combats. This first one will easily be enough to take out the Alolan Muck. We're going to see what my opponent comes in with. It is a Togekiss, so we don't go for the close combat here. We just go for a Night Slash. Unfortunately, it doesn't do an awful lot of damage. We're going straight for the Shadow Ball up against this Togekiss, and we land it. My opponent switches back into the Swampert. I'm going straight for a Shadow Punch here. I can't really remember how much energy this Swampert has, so we're in a bit of a tough situation here. So I'm going to shield this up, and then I'm going to try and catch the next Hydro Cannon, assuming they had it back to back, but they didn't, or maybe they did, I'm not sure, but they're going to go for an Earthquake now. Earthquake takes out the Weavile, and unfortunately we get to the Shadow Punches here when they reach the next Hydro Cannon, so I'm not going to be able to get to a second Shadow Punch because it's a CMP tie, and Hydro Cannon does take me out there, so we do lose that game. So GG's to that opponent there, very close game, and we go 2-3 in that set, unfortunately, although we did have that first battle where we kind of threw that, going for the wrong charge move in the end game. And now we have one bonus battle here. We lead into a Wall Rain. We're going to switch into a Pangoro here, catch this Icicle Spear. My opponent comes in with a Blaziken, and once again they shouldn't get to the charge move on the CMP tie. It should be one turn to switch out, but it's just another one of those inconsistencies here. So I actually shield this up just to get the shield back on this Blaziken, because my team is going to be very strong when my opponent's shields are down. So we're going to overfarm here, go for a Shadow Ball just before they reach the charge move. Shadow Ball takes out the Blaziken. My opponent comes back in with the Wall Rain. We're going to switch again and catch the charge move here. A bit of lag there, so we actually get an Ice Shard through. I'm not sure if we switch a turn early, but we're going for the Avalanche here, up against the Charizard on a CMP tie once again, and we just take out the Charizard. They come in with the Wall Rain. I'm going to go for the Foul Play. No, I'm not. We lag, and I was so frustrated at this point. I just go straight for the Shadow Ball, but they let it go through, and I'm able to Shadow Claw, farm them down, and take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. My advice would be, if you're wanting to try out Shadow Weavile in the Ultra League Premier Classic and you want to run it with Ice Shard, then you definitely have to use it in the lead, as that's where all the Dragonites are. Otherwise, if you're using it in the back, you probably want to run Snarl, although you probably just don't want to run Shadow Weavile at all, because I definitely feel like this team was held back by the Weavile, and that's crazy to say considering I was running a Gengar and a Pangoro, two Pokemon that aren't exactly bulky meta Pokemon, but definitely performed a lot better than the Weavile. But with that being said, if you did enjoy today's video, make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future and you're not yet subscribed, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications, so that way you're notified whenever I upload a new video. And with that being said, let's get into the shoutouts from my previous video. So firstly, we got Finn Hartwich, who says Skarmory plus the double Mud Boys with Shadow Swampert and Shadow Quagsire. I've also seen this with Whiscash instead of the Quagsire, but a very strong team composition with that Skarmory and Swampert core, but adding that second Mud Boy. Next we got Danny Felis, who says Trevenant lead, Shadow Lapras and Shadow Walrein in the back. Once again, we all know how strong that Trevenant Walrein core is, but adding this Shadow Lapras to make it an ABB team. They said, Ultra League, Scrafty, Obstagoon, what do you mean? We all know these Pokemon don't exist. Obviously, the massive core breakers to the team, but aside from that, a very strong core. Next we got Raphael D, who says Lapras, Talonflame and Shadow Ho-Oh that they ran in one of the Great League Custom Cups. Team very weak to Rock, and as Raphael mentions, a time where Lapras got KO'd and they saw a Shadow Aerodactyl. And yeah, that was pretty much game over, because the double Incinerate fire flying types get absolutely destroyed by Aerodactyl. And we got a bonus shout out here for the Great Gambino with Salazzle, Lantern and XL Chinchou. They had a blast at the start of this season, going 4-1 and 5-0, and that really sounds like a fun team and it's something that I'd probably try in the future. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.